This is a recap of the Iron Man. An escort of military Humvees drives across the Afghanistan desert. In one of them is extremely rich person weapons engineer Tony Unmistakable, riding with warriors on the job. He is messed for certain individuals from an escort who appear to be truly entertained by his own and his colorful public picture. Out of nowhere, the guard is trapped by inconspicuous shooters. The officers battle to shield themselves, however, are immediately killed. Tony escapes the Humvee, taking shelter behind an enormous stone. Minutes after the fact, a rocket lands close by and detonates. Las Vegas, 36 hours sooner. Tony Obvious is going to get the Apogee grant in Las Vegas. The following morning, Christine is stirred by a voice on a PC screen. Tony shows up at a tactical station in Afghanistan to exhibit his organization's most recent venture, the Jericho, a high-level super rocket framework. After the exhibition, Tony gets a call from Obadiah, and they are both satisfied that the showing worked out in a good way. Tony takes off in one more Humvee where the snare from the launch of the story happened. Tony seems to surrender and starts assembling the rocket, yet he has different plans. Tony is prodded and appears to have a shift in perspective. He starts to draw up plans for a weapon framework, a defensively covered suit fueled by the curved reactor that he will wear and use to overcome the fear-based oppressors. Working irately for the time being, Tony finishes his task. Ensign lashes Tony into the finished shielded suit, letting him know the exit from the cavern. They set off a bomb inside the cell entryway as an interruption for the watchman as Tony powers up his suit. Over Tony's fights, he snatches a firearm and runs off to divert the enduring gatekeepers. Tony, his suit presently completely fueled, muscles his direction through the cavern. Mostly out of the sinkhole, Obvious tracks down Ensign, mortally injured. Ensign uncovers that this was his arrangement. Rhodey is excited to observe that his companion is alive. That night, Obadiah stands up to Tony about his activities, incensed. Obadiah knows that the stock incentive for their organization will take a serious drop as a result of this declaration. Tony believes Distinct Ventures should push ahead with circular segment reactor innovation, yet Obadiah feels that the curved reactor is only an exposure stunt. Stain persuades Tony to keep out of sight for some time so the organization can figure things out. When Tony requests her assistance, he's made an overhauled and substantially more impressive Little Bend reactor, the Imprint 2 chest piece, yet can't introduce it into his chest without somebody to help his helping robot, Sham. Tony concludes that the principal thing he needs to do is to consummate the covering's flight framework. He makes repulsors for the feet and palm-mounted stabilizers for balance. In his most memorable test, the repulsor blows him in reverse. Pepper leaves a paper-wrapped box right in front of Tony as a gift. Tony associates with Jarvis to screen the advancement in the suit. Against Jarvis's recommendation, Tony takes it out for an experimental drill, and he is excited by the suit's usefulness. Tony is scarcely ready to reactivate his engine so as to try not to collide with the ground. Unmistakable gets back, however the protection is weighty to such an extent that it crushes through 3 stories of the house and he squashes one of his valued game's vehicles. As Tony recuperates from his accident arrival, he opens the crate that Pepper left behind before. Inside is the Imprint I-Bend reactor, encased as a prize with the message, evidence that Tony Distinct shows at least a bit of kindness. Christine, the correspondent Tony laid down with preceding leaving for Afghanistan, furiously defies him, showing him photos of his weapons being utilized by a fear-based oppressor bunch the earlier day in the distant Afghan town of Gulmira, Ensign's hometown. Tony faces Obadiah regarding this situation, and Obadiah uncovers, in Gulmira, psychological oppressors are gathering together regular citizens for catch and execution when Tony appears. Pepper, Coulson, and a few different specialists show up at Obadiah's exploration office. They spot the Imprint eye protection and a stock. All at once, a monstrous mechanical suit shows signs of life and assaults them. It's Obadiah's partner suit, codenamed the Ironmonger, controlled by the chest piece he took from Tony. Tony shows up similarly as Obadiah is going to execute Pepper. The two ironclad champions start an immense, fighting fight that spills into the roads close to obvious businesses while Tony attempts to safeguard any guildless regular people. Back on the ground, Obadiah assaults Tony once more. Tony figures out how to handicap the weapon's global positioning framework in Obadiah's suit and dodges Obadiah sufficiently long to teach Pepper to overburden the structure's Bend reactor.